what has happened so far with the case of the war between the United States and Iran. The United States started attacking Iran, and the targets, what we've learned so far from the targets, let me bring the map here to describe what has happened so far. And going here, they started with this location in the Strait of Hormuz. And they started with Siri Island, then the Qeshm Island, the Qeshm Island here, and the city of Bandar Abbas got hit. We had 2 strikes at least in Bandar Abbas. Then the other targets were here in Bandar Kangan, here in this location. They call it Bandar Kangan. And the other attacks, in the first wave of attack, they attacked these targets close to the Persian Gulf. And they tried to attack Asaluye. Asaluye is here. Look at Asaluye here. And one of the most important petrochemical plants in Iran is here in Asaluye. They tried to target it with cruise missile, and the cruise missile was intercepted. So what we've learned later on, CENTCOM said they didn't attack it, but it seems they have footages and that show they attacked it, but the cruise missiles that were used were targeted, were intercepted by air defense system in Iran. Later on, it was a huge first wave in the Persian Gulf, then a minor attack in the northern part of Iran. And they tried to hit some targets in Karaj. Karaj is a city close to, the capital of Iran, Tehran. There were 2, if I'm not mistaken, 2 explosions in Karaj, at least 2 explosions in Karaj. And in the city of Bandar Abbas, in the southern part of Iran, as I've shown you on the map, we had some explosions there, and they hit some targets there. And then Donald Trump said that I talk with Iranians, they're begging to end the war, and they're asking me to stop attacking them, so I'm going to stop it. And later on, after 30 minutes, we've seen that CENTCOM said that the attacks has been concluded, or they're done with their attack. And Iranian attack just started minutes ago. It's something like 20 minutes ago. And they started again with the same sort of strategy as we've seen last night. What they've done, they started attacking, sending missiles to Jordan together with drones. Then they started attacking Jordan. After that, after firing those missiles to Jordan, then they started attacking Bahrain and Kuwait. Basically the same strategy. But this time it seems that they're hitting some other targets in Jordan. In Amman, for example, in some targets in Amman. I don't know what are those targets. There is no information considering those targets. But from what we've seen so far, here is the Muaffaq Salti Air Base in Jordan, which was hit by Iranian missiles. Came out. And you see here the smoke in the air. And it's not that good, the footage, but at least shows that they hit the targets. Iranian hit the targets in Jordan. And it was something else. There are new projectiles that have been used, some unidentified projectiles that Iran has used in Bahrain. And here is the footage of that projectile. Nobody knows what's that. It's some kind of drone. It's a missile. It's more like a missile. And just moments ago, we had the Shahed drone over Kuwait. And these are the footages that we've seen so far. What are the targets? We have a new announcement from IRGC. It says that in response to the missile attacks by the United States Army in the area, a manufacturing complex and an area around Karaj and Nazarabad, and a local IRGC base in Peshwa County. And so the attacks, the hitting, they're talking about in Karaj, in Nazarabad, which is close to Karaj, and in Peshwa County. I don't know where, because I have never had the Peshwa County. And they said the targets were there, basically. They hit the targets there. And in response to that, the Iranian army has fired 12 missiles, ballistic missiles, were fired at the location of the American F-35, F-15, and F-16 fighter jets, as well as important installations of the United States Army located at the Al-Azraq Air Base and Control Center. They said that they destroyed those installations. And this is the latest sort of statement by IRGC. And I think the two sides, what is happening right now, the United States attack, to consider all of these attacks, looking at the footages so far, what has happened in Iran, I don't see a significant sort of move on the part of Donald Trump or an attack that could put pressure on Iran. What was happening during the American attack on Iran, there were, while the United States was attacking Iran, Iran was attacking these Kurdi, the Erbil in Iraqi Kurdistan, because they thought that these terrorists gonna get in from the borders with the Iraqi Kurdistan. So the United States was attacking Iran. Iran was attacking Erbil, Iraqi Kurdistan. And I was somehow confused. And then later on, we've learned, at least from the Iranian media, that the Iranians were concerned about some sort of invasion, that the United States is trying to make some sort of chaos. And they tried to capture some island, maybe going to HORMUZ, as it was mentioned in IRGC, that sort of statement by IRGC. They said they tried to do some sort of invasion, which was, responded by Iranians. In the reports, we've learned that Iran has used a hypersonic missile to hit a U.S. warship. It was reported by Israeli media. It wasn't by Iranians. I haven't seen any sort of report on the Iranian media about the attack on U.S. warship. Then later on, CENTCOM said that didn't happen. Nothing of that sort is happening. Iran, as an outcome of this war, the American attack on Iran, they said that the Strait of Hormuz is fully closed. And the closure is total closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Nothing is going to get through the Strait of Hormuz, because before that we had something like 10 to 30 ships or vessels, whatever, oil tankers, bulk tankers passing through the Strait of Hormuz by paying tolls. And those sort of movement are not happening right now as we talk in the Strait of Hormuz. It's totally closed right now. But CENTCOM again came out and said that the strait is open and the vessels are passing through the Strait of Hormuz. That's a huge lie. At least I can say that. That's a big lie. And the strait is totally closed and they're controlling everything. So the attack was not that significant so far from what we've seen. Because we don't know what exactly has happened, but from the footages, and we know the internet is back in Iran, and people are just filming everything and sending their clips and their videos out, and we can see what's going on in Iran. At least if something happens, we can find it out. We can see it on social network, on various applications. But so far, we haven't seen some explosions in Karaj, close to Tehran, nothing in Tehran itself. the city, the capital of Iran. Nothing has happened. No footages came out. And it seems some targets in Syria Island and in Bandar Abbas. These are all the explosion that we've heard so far, or we've seen so far, and it was reported in the mainstream media or alternative media so far. Then Iranian attack is happening as we talk right now, as I said just moments ago, and they're hitting the targets. What is the strategy on their part? It seems that when it comes to Jordan, they're just somehow increasing the targets, some targets in Amman, some targets in other part of American bases. And we don't know about the new targets. As it was mentioned in this newest statement, they're talking about, the location of F-35, F-16, F-14, and these fighter jets. This is the whole case. That this is the new report on the part of Iranians. But looking at the situation, after all, what's going on? And I don't know is this a comedy show? Is this something that Donald Trump is trying to make? I don't know what is the point of that. He said that he's attacking Iran because he's trying to force them into, they have to submit. This is the way. Nobody would submit. Dude, you were in Afghanistan for 20 years and you couldn't do that. And you think that against Iran you can do this, but these sort of attacks and and they're going to respond. And they're responding as we talk. And that's why I don't understand what's going on. It's unbelievable. Somehow, looking at what has happened so far, the Israeli attack on an empty building in Dahia, which nobody knows what was the necessity of that. They couldn't kill anybody in that building. Let's assume that they had false intelligence from the region. They thought they're going to get somebody there. They're going to kill Hezbollah forces. So they failed. Then the Iranian response to Israeli attack, because Israelis on one side, maybe they wanted to attack to kill Hezbollah forces. On the other hand, they wanted to test to see if Iran would react to that. If Iran is bragging or is telling the truth, or they really want to defend Lebanon. So Iran didn't, Iran immediately responded to Israeli attack. And they attacked the northern part of Israel, as you know what has happened in the northern part of Israel. Then we had the Israeli attack on Iran. And what has happened in the second attack in response to what Israel did in Iran, which was not significant at all. Iran attack in northern, central, and southern part of Israel. It seems that their attack those missiles were or drones were so effective to hit the targets. So put Israel in some sort of desperate situation. I think that is the main point here. Israel thought that, so what would be the response on the part of Israel? Because they didn't respond to Iranian attack. So then the United States came out. Donald Trump, all of a sudden, out of the blue, he tweeted that Iran has attacked one of our Apache helicopters in the Strait of Hormuz, which was patrolling the strait. So we're going to attack Iran. Then he said, we may not attack. Then the attack happened. So we really thought that it was an Apache helicopter in the region which was attacked. And later on, you look at nothing came out so far. It seems some sort of mystery. You remember the attack in southern part of Isfahan with that ground operation that the United States tried to grab the enriched uranium in Isfahan. They tried to do some sort of invasion and going to grab, they wanted to grab the enriched uranium in Isfahan. So they went there with a lot of C-130, Black Hawks, Little Birds, everything. You look at the aircrafts in that operation, it's unbelievable. They sent a lot of weapons, everything there to do some sort of ground invasion, to grab just steal or to get the 60, that enriched uranium in Iran. They thought that they can do it, but it has totally failed. But before that happening, it was all about rescuing one of the pilots of F-15, if you remember that. While the F-15 was hit between two provinces of Iran. Yeah, let me show you on the map what has happened, when the attack has happened. Yeah, that F-15 was hit here. Let me bring it here between Khuzestan. Yeah, I'm just getting confused here. Yeah, in this area. They thought between Khuzestan and Kohgiluyeh. Then what they did, they went to Isfahan here, in this part, in Isfahan, in the southern part of Isfahan. And they said that the pilot was there. It was impossible for the pilot, for an aircraft, a fighter jet, to be hit in between Khuzestan and Kohgiluyeh, two provinces to the eastern part, to the western part of Iran. Then you go to the central part of Iran for the pilot, to rescue the pilot. That was a huge lie. And you remember Donald Trump came out and just trying to make a story about more than 30 minutes. If you remember that, in that briefing, Donald Trump together with Pete Hegseth and General Kane talking about how successful was that operation. And the case of this Apache helicopter is the same, in my opinion. There is no basis, there is no foundation, there is no reality behind it. They just made it up to attack Iran because Iran hit Israel so hard that Israel couldn't respond the same way. So they needed the United States to get involved. So you know that when Bibi asks something from Donald Trump, he has to follow. And nobody knows what is that mystery. And we may speculate on what's going on between Bibi and Trump. Maybe that's related to Epstein file or something like that. Nobody knows. How deep is that? How deep is the leverage of Israelis on Donald Trump? But it seems they somehow convinced Donald Trump the United States has to do something about it. Because Israel was attacked, and here is Donald Trump coming back to the war while he's negotiating. He's saying that we are 2 days away from making a deal with Iranians. We are 3 days away, making these sort of jokes, and he's so good in manipulating the market, the oil prices, because he was doing this for 3 months so far. For 3 months, he was just manipulating the market of oil, which, by the way, is not the real price of oil, as it was mentioned by the head of Iranian parliament. He said, well, it doesn't matter what is the price of oil when you go to those websites. The price of oil is not real. It's something, really the price of oil, if you go there, he said it's going to be, as it was mentioned, by the way, now it wasn't just only the head of Iranian parliament. Robert Kagan said the same thing. It's $150 a barrel. This is the reality what's going on. And Donald Trump, what he has done so far, let's assume that Donald Trump wanted to do something for Israel, but he wanted to keep the market or try to keep the price of oil, somehow stable, not going up, not increasing. But the outcome of these attacks so far has totally the opposite effect, or the attacks are influencing the market. With the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, I would say the price of oil would drastically increase as time goes by, because it's not going to, before we had the Chinese ships, maybe we don't have that much of Russian ships, maybe Russian ships, Pakistani ships, some other friendly countries. We had Japan begging Iran to let some tankers passing through the Strait of Hormuz, maybe some Europeans, I don't know. It seems that because they were negotiating with Iranians. And that's all. Right now, nothing is going to get out, nothing going to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. This is the new reality. And I don't think that the foreign minister of Iran said they are seriously reassessing, reevaluating the negotiations with the United States if they really, they really need to do that. I don't see any reason for Iran to negotiate with the United States to send any sort of message anymore.